Welcome, weary travelers, to another quiet journey with the Dozing Doctor. Tonight, we are leaving behind the warmth of the sun, the familiar orbit of our Earth, and the solid ground we walk upon. We are venturing out into the absolute dark, to the very edge of our solar system, to a place of eternal ice and infinite silence. So, take a deep, slow breath. Let the tension slip from your shoulders. Close your heavy eyes and let your mind drift away into the cosmic ocean. We spend our entire lives at the bottom of an invisible ocean. It is an ocean of air, of pressure, of gravity, and most of all, of noise. Every day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you close your eyes, you are held down. Gravity anchors your feet to the floor, pulling relentlessly at your bones, reminding you of the weight you carry. And with that physical weight comes the noise of existence. The endless hum of cities, the rushing of wind, the ticking of clocks, the demands of the day, and the loud, rushing current of our own relentless thoughts. Down here on the surface of the earth, everything is heavy, everything is loud, everything is moving so incredibly fast. But tonight you do not have to move fast. Tonight you do not have to carry that weight. Take a deep, deliberate breath in. Fill your lungs with the cool air of your room. And as you exhale, I want you to imagine that invisible anchor simply dissolving. Extended pause. Feel the tension in your shoulders begin to drift away. Feel the heavy pull of the earth slowly losing its grip on you. We are untethering. We are not launching in a rocket made of steel and fire. There is no violent explosion to push us into the sky. We are simply floating upward, drifting like a feather caught in a slow, upward draft. Imagine rising through the ceiling of your room, up into the cool night air. The sounds of your neighborhood begin to muffle and fade. We rise higher, piercing the low-hanging clouds, entering the quiet chill of the stratosphere. The air grows thinner, finer, until there is almost nothing left to carry the sound of the world below. The blue of the daytime sky, which once felt like a solid dome over your head, stretches out and thins, turning into a deep, bruised violet, and then it fades away entirely. It is replaced by the pure, vast, unbroken ink of the cosmic void. Extended pause. Look down for just a moment. There is Earth, a breathtaking, fragile sphere of deep oceanic blue, swirling white clouds and the soft, glowing amber of city lights in the darkness. It looks so impossibly small from up here. Every deadline, every argument, every worry, and every rushing crowd, it is all contained on that delicate marble. And you are no longer there. You have stepped off the stage. The silence of space wraps around you like a heavy, comforting blanket. You are completely safe, completely untethered, and entirely free. Our journey outward begins in the shallow waters of our cosmic shore. As we drift away from the blue cradle of Earth, the first face to greet us in the dark is an ancient, familiar friend, the Moon. For billions of years, it has orbited our world, a silent silver sentinel keeping watch over the oceans and the turning of the tides. As we glide silently over its surface, you can see the deep, jagged craters and the vast, dark plains of basalt known as Maria, the ancient ghosts of lava flows that cooled and froze long before human eyes ever looked up at the sky. There is a profound stillness here that is difficult for the human mind to grasp. On Earth, even in the quietest desert, the wind still shifts the sand. But on the Moon, there is no wind. There is no weather. There is no atmosphere to scatter the light or carry a single sound. If you were to drop a stone on the surface of the Moon, it would hit the ground in absolute, terrifying silence. The footprints left by astronauts decades ago are still perfectly preserved in the fine gray dust, and they will remain there for millions of years, untouched, unchanging. The Moon is a museum of the ancient solar system, suspended in a vacuum, sleeping under the harsh, unblinking glare of the sun. We acknowledge its silent watch, but we do not linger. Our path draws us further into the night. As the Earth and the Moon shrink into a single, pale blue speck behind us, the temperature outside our invisible vessel begins to drop. The golden warmth of the sun is already starting to lose its intensity. Emerging from the black canvas ahead is Mars, The red planet. It hangs in the darkness like a dying ember from a fire that burned out a long time ago. As we drift closer, its surface reveals a landscape of tragic frozen beauty. Mars was once a world of rushing rivers, deep blue lakes, and a thick, protective sky. But that was billions of years ago. Today, it is a vast, oxidized desert. The iron in its soil has rusted under the thin, freezing atmosphere, painting the entire globe in shades of burnt orange, ochre, and deep crimson. We glide silently over Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system, a towering giant that reaches 3 times higher than Mount Everest. But its fires have been dead for eons. We pass over Valles Marineris, a canyon system so deep and so wide it would stretch across the entire continent of North America. Down in those dark, freezing valleys, ancient shadows pool and stretch as the distant sun crawls across the Martian sky. There is wind here, a thin, whispering breeze that occasionally whips the rust-colored dust into massive storms. But the air is so incredibly thin that even a hurricane on Mars would barely feel like a gentle push against your skin. It is a lonely, quiet world, a ghost of what it used to be. We leave it to its long, dusty sleep, turning our faces away from the inner planets and toward the true depths of the solar system. Beyond Mars, the nature of our journey shifts. We cross a vast, seemingly empty gulf of space, entering the realm of the asteroid belt. If you have ever seen a science fiction film, you might imagine this place as a chaotic, swirling vortex of tumbling boulders, where spacecraft must dodge and weave to survive. But the reality of the cosmos is far more solitary and far more peaceful. The asteroid belt is a wide, sweeping ring of ancient rock, metal, and dust. But the space it occupies is so staggeringly huge that the distance between any two asteroids is typically millions of miles. You could stand on the surface of an asteroid in the very heart of the belt, look up into the dark sky, and you would not see another asteroid. You would only see the distant, unblinking stars. These rocks are the leftover building blocks of the solar system, the cosmic debris that never quite managed to pull together to form a planet. They are fragments of a broken promise, tumbling end over end in utter isolation. Watch one as we pass it by. A jagged, irregular stone scarred by billions of years of micro-impacts, rotating so slowly that a single day on its surface takes weeks. It casts long, harsh shadows in the dimming sunlight. It makes no sound. It has been falling in a circle around the sun for 4.5 billion years, and it will continue to do so long after the Earth has changed beyond recognition. There is a deep, meditative comfort in their endless, solitary routine. They are in no rush. They have nowhere else to be. We are now crossing the frost line. This is an invisible boundary in space where the heat from the sun becomes too weak to melt ice. Out here, water, methane, and ammonia freeze as hard as granite. The cold of deep space is beginning to set in, a creeping chill that wraps around our journey. Rising from the depths of the void is a monster of breathtaking scale, Jupiter. It is so unimaginably massive that it could swallow 1,000 Earths and still have room to spare. Unlike the rocky worlds we left behind, Jupiter has no solid surface. It is a titanic ocean of gas and liquid metallic hydrogen, held together by a crushing gravitational force. As we drift toward it, the planet fills our entire field of view, a swirling, hypnotic canvas of cream, burnt amber, deep brown, and pale yellow clouds. These are not gentle clouds. They are massive, violent storms, some of which are larger than our entire home planet. We drift over the Great Red Spot, an ancient anticyclone that has been raging furiously for hundreds of years. Down in those thick, turbulent layers, winds howl at hundreds of miles an hour, and colossal bolts of lightning illuminate the dark gas. Yet, from our vantage point in the vacuum of space, the giant is completely, utterly silent. The violent churning of its atmosphere looks like the slow, deliberate strokes of a painter's brush on a moving canvas. It is a paradox of nature, boundless chaos wrapped in an illusion of perfect peace. Orbiting this giant are dozens of moons, a miniature solar system in its own right. We pass Europa, an icy moon with a smooth, cracked shell, hiding a vast, dark ocean of liquid water beneath its freezing surface. It hangs suspended in the dark, keeping its secrets locked away under miles of ice. Pushing further into the abyss, the sunlight grows remarkably faint. The star that warmed our faces on Earth is now just a brilliantly bright bead of light in a sea of black. We are nearly 1 billion miles from home. And here in this dim, freezing twilight, we find the jewel of our solar system, Saturn. Saturn glows with a soft, muted gold and pale yellow light, but it is the magnificent rings that command the silence. As we drift slowly beneath them, they stretch out for hundreds of thousands of miles, a massive, flat disk of staggering beauty. From far away, the rings look solid, like grooves on a cosmic vinyl record. But as we glide incredibly close, the illusion breaks. The rings are not solid. They are made of billions and billions of individual pieces of water ice. Some are as small as grains of sand, others are the size of mountains. Because the sun is so far away, it casts long, dramatic shadows across the ring plane. The ice particles catch the dim light, sparkling and shimmering like a river of crushed diamonds suspended in the void. They orbit the golden planet in a perfectly synchronized, silent ballet. They do not collide. They simply glide in a state of eternal grace, bound by gravity, frozen in time. Take a moment to simply watch them spin. Let the rhythm of their orbit slow your heartbeat. There is no hurry out here, only the endless, graceful turning of ice in the dark. Our journey is about to grow even colder and much, much darker. We leave Saturn behind, entering a gulf of space so wide it dwarfs everything we have crossed so far. The distance between Saturn and the next planet is greater than the distance from the Sun to Saturn. We are entering the realm of the ice giants. First, we encounter Uranus. It does not look like the turbulent gas giants. It is a smooth, featureless sphere of pale, icy blue-green, glowing softly like a frosted glass orb. Strangely, Uranus is tilted entirely on its side, rolling around the sun like a barrel rather than spinning like a top. It sits in a state of profound, isolating quiet. Its icy atmosphere of water, ammonia, and methane is incredibly cold, dipping to hundreds of degrees below zero. It is a ghost world, floating aimlessly in the shadows. Further still, nearly 3 billion miles from where we began, we reach Neptune. Neptune is a deep, striking sapphire blue, a color so rich and dark it almost blends into the surrounding cosmos. Here, the sun provides no warmth whatsoever. It is a tiny, intensely bright star, no larger than a pinpoint. The light it casts on Neptune is a ghostly, twilight glow. Beneath the deep blue clouds of this frozen world, winds whip around the planet at supersonic speeds, the fastest winds in the entire solar system. But in the vacuum of space, those roaring winds make no sound. The planet spins in cold, absolute silence. It is the final true planet, the last major anchor holding onto the sun's gravitational tether. As we drift past Neptune, the immense blue globe blocks out the distant sun for a moment. We are plunged into a darkness so complete, so profound, that it feels like closing your eyes in a perfectly lightless room. We have passed the planets, but we have not yet reached the true edge. We are now drifting through the Kuiper Belt. This is a massive, donut-shaped region of space filled with thousands of icy dwarf planets and frozen ancient remnants. This is where Pluto resides. Pluto is a small, pale world of nitrogen ice glaciers and towering mountains of solid water ice. It has a slow, eccentric orbit that carries it far into the deepest parts of the dark. For decades, humanity thought Pluto was the edge of the map. They thought that once you passed this tiny, frozen world, you would be in interstellar space. But as we float past Pluto, watching its heart-shaped glacier slowly turn in the gloom, we realize the truth. The Kuiper Belt is not the end of the solar system. It is merely the shoreline. Look out ahead. Past the rocks, past the dwarf planets, past the scattered disk of icy debris. There is nothing but black. It is an emptiness so vast, so staggeringly huge, that the human mind cannot truly comprehend its dimensions. We are leaving the flat, comfortable plane where the planets live. We are stepping off the edge of the known map, into a three-dimensional abyss that stretches out for trillions of miles. The warmth is entirely gone. The light is a distant memory. You are now floating in the deepest, most pristine silence the universe has to offer. The gravity of the sun, which once dictated the motion of giant planets, is now just a whisper, a delicate thread stretching across the void, holding onto this space with the lightest possible touch. We are traveling outward, deeper into the deep freeze, crossing a chasm where time itself seems to lose its meaning. Decades pass like seconds. Centuries pass like minutes. Out here, nothing changes. The space between the stars is not empty. It is filled with a quiet, waiting energy. We are approaching the ultimate frontier, a place where a trillion ancient comets sleep in perfect isolation, a place that surrounds our entire solar system like a colossal, invisible bubble of ice and shadow. We have left the light. We have shed the weight of the earth. We have sailed past the giants and the ghosts. Now we enter the long, eternal night. For as long as human beings have walked upon the earth and looked up at the glittering night sky, we have drawn flat lines between the stars. We drew cosmic maps on parchment. We built brass orreries that turned on flat metal tables. We trained our minds to imagine our solar system as a single, flat, spinning disk, a giant celestial record turning silently in the dark, with the golden sun blazing at its center and the planets gliding along smooth, predictable tracks. And for billions of miles, as we traveled outward from home, that flat illusion held us in its peaceful spell. We crossed the flat plain of the ecliptic. We drifted past the red sands of Mars. We glided beneath the shimmering, golden rings of Saturn, and we crossed the pale blue, twilight frontiers of Uranus and Neptune. But out here, where the solar wind weakens to a quiet, imperceptible sigh, the flat map begins to dissolve. Take a slow, deep breath, and let your awareness expand in every direction at once. Look around you in the dark. Up is no longer just empty blackness. Down is no longer an uncharted void. Out here, the geometry of the cosmos opens its arms in three full dimensions. We have stepped completely off the flat, comfortable disk where the planets live, and we have entered a monumental cosmic dome. The Oort Cloud is not a ring. It is not a belt. It is a breathtaking, three-dimensional sphere, a colossal, spherical bubble of ancient ice that wraps entirely around our sun, our Earth, and every memory our species has ever created. It extends far above the North Pole of our star, deep beneath its South Pole, and out across every conceivable horizon of the night. Our home is not merely floating in open space. It is cradled, shielded, and enclosed inside a timeless sphere of eternal darkness. Imagine holding a translucent, shimmering glass globe in the palm of your hand. At its absolute, deepest center sits a single, microscopic point of light, a tiny, flickering candle. Surrounding that tiny flame is a vast expanse of sheer, quiet emptiness, held safely within the glass. That is the sacred architecture of our solar system. This invisible sphere is constructed in two distinct, breathtaking layers, woven seamlessly into the blackness of deep space. First, as we drift past the Kuiper belt and leave behind the last icy dwarf worlds, we cross into the inner realm known as the Hills Cloud. Shaped like a massive, thick torus, a cosmic donut of dark ice, this region gathers trillions of ancient fragments that are just beginning to break free from the gravitational flat plane. They wander in wide, majestic loops, slowly lifting higher and higher above the disk. As we push further outward, thousands of times further than the distance from the Earth to the Sun, that donut shape stretches, swells, and gently blooms into the outer Oort Cloud. Here, the structure becomes a pristine, unbroken sphere. It is balanced so delicately by the faint, whispering gravity of our distant sun, that it holds its shape against the cosmos like a suspended bubble. If an alien traveler were to look at our solar system from a light year away, they would not see a collection of spinning worlds. They would see a single, faint, ghostly halo resting in the deep velvet of the Milky Way. A quiet, luminous pearl holding a tiny, warm secret at its center. How do we measure a domain so impossibly vast that ordinary numbers begin to feel like quiet, meaningless sounds? Down on Earth, we measure our journeys in steps, in miles, and in hours. We measure the space between cities and the time it takes for the sun to set and rise again. But out here in the outer sphere, those measures fade away like mist on a morning mirror. Consider the fundamental unit of cosmic measure, the distance from the Earth to the sun, 93 million miles of space, warmth, and light. Astronomers call this single, massive distance an astronomical unit. Neptune, the outermost true planet, sits 30 of those units away from the sun. The icy dwarf world Pluto drifts at 40. To reach the inner threshold of the Oort Cloud, where we are floating right now, you must travel 2,000 of those units into the dark. And to reach its outer edge, the delicate skin where this dark sphere finally touches the open ocean of interstellar space, you must travel 100,000 units away from the warmth of home. Let the sheer weight of that scale rest gently in your mind. 100,000 times the distance to the sun. If you were traveling aboard Voyager 1, humanity's farthest robotic traveler, moving at nearly 40,000 miles an hour, it would take you 300 years just to reach the inside edge of this sphere. And to pass all the way through it, to emerge on the other side into the true void between the stars, would take you 30,000 years. 30,000 years of floating through absolute, unbroken silence. That is the vastness of the sanctuary holding you tonight. Turn your gaze backward now, looking straight into the heart of the sphere. Where is our sun? Where is that blinding, golden furnace that warms the green fields of Earth and sparkles on the surface of our restless oceans? From the depths of the Oort Cloud, the sun has lost its fierce warmth. It is no longer a wheel of golden fire. It has shrunk into a tiny, piercingly bright silver star, a single, brilliant diamond pinned against a canvas of unbroken black. It shines with an intense, icy glare, but its light carries no warmth whatsoever. If you held out your hand into the dark, the light of the sun would cast a long, razor-sharp shadow, but your skin would feel only the absolute zero of deep space. The cold out here is not merely the absence of heat, it is a physical presence. It is a deep freeze so profound that it slows the tiny vibrations of atoms until they nearly stop altogether. It turns gases like methane, carbon monoxide, and nitrogen into dark, rock-hard ice. It freezes chemistry. It freezes time. Because light takes months to travel across this monumental gap, the pale starlight touching your eyes right now left the sun long ago. You are standing in the cosmic present, bathed in the gentle, cool memory of the past. And the sun's gravity, the mighty force that swings massive Jupiter and Saturn around in their tracks, is now nothing more than a faint, distant whisper. It holds onto this outer sphere with a thread so thin, so delicate, that a passing breeze from a neighboring star could almost break it. Yet that tiny thread remains, softly binding this frozen kingdom to the light. Although this sphere is composed mostly of empty space, it is not deserted. Hidden within its dark, monumental vault is a population of silent wanderers so massive it defies human comprehension. Trillions of icy worlds, trillions of dark, sleeping comets. 4.5 billion years ago, when our planets were being born out of a violent, swirling cloud of gas and dust, the massive gravity of young Jupiter and Saturn acted like giant gravitational slingshots. Millions upon millions of icy building blocks were forcefully flung out of the inner solar system, exiled forever into the far, dark corners of space. And here they have rested ever since. Do not picture a crowded storm of tumbling rocks. Space is far too gentle, far too vast for that. Even with a trillion frozen mountains drifting through this sphere, they are separated from one another by tens of millions of miles of empty blackness. If you were to stand on the surface of one of these ancient icy wanderers, you would look out into the night and see nothing but distant, unblinking stars. A single comet can float through this sphere for 1 billion years and never once cross paths with another object. They are dark, quiet, and completely untouched. Covered in a thick crust of dark organic dust and primitive ice, they carry no glowing tails out here. They have no light of their own. They are perfect, pristine time capsules from the morning of creation, suspended in a dreamless million-year slumber, slowly circling a distant star they can barely feel. Because the sun's gravitational grip on these distant ice mountains is so fragile, the Oort Cloud is deeply sensitive to the gentlest forces in the galaxy. As our entire solar system slowly orbits the distant center of the Milky Way, it passes through subtle gravitational waves known as galactic tides. These tides are the cumulative gravitational pull of all the billions of stars, gas clouds, and dark matter residing in the galactic disk. It is a force so soft that no human on Earth could ever feel it, but out here at the edge, it is enough to shift the cosmos. Every few million years, a wandering star in the galaxy glides relatively close to our solar system. It does not crash into us. It does not tear our sphere apart. It simply glides past in the night, its gravity acting like a soft breeze brushing through the outer branches of a great tree. That gentle tug is all it takes. A single sleeping ice mountain, disturbed from its billion-year nap, loses its orbital balance. Its forward motion slows down by just a fraction of a mile per hour. And very slowly, it begins to fall. It does not plunge rapidly. It begins a majestic, creeping descent toward the tiny, brilliant diamond at the center of the sphere. A long, solitary voyage toward the inner warmth that will take millions of years to complete. It is a slow, cosmic symphony, conducted by the invisible hands of the galaxy itself. Let your mind float freely now, suspended in the quiet heart of this grand, invisible sphere. There is no noise here. There are no deadlines, no rushing crowds, no heavy burdens, and no ticking clocks. In the Oort Cloud, time is not measured in anxious minutes or fleeting hours. It flows in slow, silent eons. This dark sphere surrounding us is not a cold void to be feared. It is a protective sanctuary. It encloses our entire home in a quiet, undisturbed bubble, insulating us from the harsh, open wilderness of the galaxy. Feel the profound, weightless peace of this place. Let the absolute stillness of the ancient ice wash over your thoughts. Breathe in the pristine, quiet clarity of deep space, and exhale all the lingering noise and tension of your day. The sleeping mountains will continue their slow, silent orbits through the dark. The distant sun will hold them softly in its grip, and you can rest here, completely safe, completely still, cradled inside the grand, invisible sphere at the edge of home. In our everyday lives, time feels like a river that only flows in one direction. It pulls us relentlessly forward, away from the past and into the rushing currents of tomorrow. We cannot touch yesterday. We cannot hold on to the morning once the night has fallen. But out here in the deep cosmos, the rules of time are different. Space is not just a place of distance. It is a landscape of memory. When we look out into the darkest, farthest reaches of our solar system, we are not just looking across trillions of miles of empty space. We are looking backward. The Oort Cloud, this vast, invisible sphere holding us in the dark, is not just a geographical boundary. It is a museum. It is the oldest, most perfectly preserved archive in the history of our world. Down on Earth, the wind, the rain, and the shifting tectonic plates have erased almost every trace of our planet's earliest days. The Earth has rewritten its own story 1 million times over. But out here in the absolute zero of the void, nothing has changed. Nothing has been erased. The objects drifting in this dark sphere have not felt the warmth of the sun or the touch of another world for more than 4 billion years. To understand what they are and why they are sleeping in the dark, we must let go of the present. We must drift backward across the oceans of time to a moment long before the earth was blue. We must return to the very beginning. Imagine the space around us, but wipe away the planets. Erase the rings of Saturn, the red sands of Mars, and the quiet, glowing moon. 4.5 billion years ago, there was no quiet in the solar system. There was only a breathtaking, violent storm of creation. Before we had a solar system, there was a solar nebula, a colossal, swirling cloud of ancient stardust, hydrogen gas, and microscopic ice. It was a chaotic, brilliant fog left behind by older, dying stars that had exploded long before our sun was born. Slowly driven by the patient, invisible hands of gravity, this massive cloud began to spin. As it spun, it flattened into a glowing, turbulent disk. The center of this spinning disk grew denser, heavier, and impossibly hot, until finally the pressure became too great. In a silent, blinding flash of atomic fire, our sun ignited. The young sun was angry and wild, casting a fierce, violent light across the swirling dust. And in that glowing, spinning disk, the building blocks of planets began to collide. Microscopic grains of dust crashed into one another, sticking together to form pebbles. Pebbles crashed into pebbles to form rocks. Rocks collided to form boulders, and boulders collided to form jagged, burning mountains. The early solar system was a place of endless fire, roaring collisions, and molten rock. It was a chaotic forge, spinning wildly in the dark. But far out from the heat of the young sun, beyond the frost line, the collisions were different. Out there, it was cold enough for water, methane, and ammonia to freeze into solid rock. The mountains forming in the outer disk were not made of fire and lava. They were made of ancient, dirty ice. In this swirling, icy outer disk, something monumental was taking shape. The icy rocks began to clump together in staggering numbers. Their combined gravity grew stronger, sweeping up the surrounding gas like massive cosmic vacuums. They grew larger and larger still, until they became the titans we know today, Jupiter and Saturn. These young gas giants were incredibly massive and incredibly disruptive. As they carved their paths through the spinning disk of ice and dust, their immense gravity acted like a series of cosmic waves, violently shaking the delicate balance of the early solar system. Millions upon millions of leftover icy mountains, the debris of creation that had not been swallowed by the growing planets, suddenly found themselves caught in a treacherous gravitational dance. As young Jupiter and Saturn migrated and shifted in their early orbits, their gravitational pull swept through the remaining fields of ice like a colossal broom. When a smaller, icy body drifted too close to the crushing gravity of Jupiter, it was not always destroyed. Instead, the giant planet would act as an unimaginably powerful slingshot. The icy body would be caught, whipped around the giant at terrifying speeds, and then forcefully ejected. Imagine it. Millions of ancient, icy mountains violently cast out from their birthplaces. They were flung outward, away from the warmth of the young sun, away from the swirling disk of planetary creation. They were exiled into the deepest, darkest corners of the unknown void. This was the Great Exile. It lasted for millions of years. A steady, silent rain of frozen debris being thrown outward into the black abyss. As these exiled mountains traveled further and further from the sun, their speed began to drop. The sun's gravity, though weakening with every passing million miles, refused to let them go entirely. Eventually, thousands of astronomical units away from the chaos of their birth, they stopped moving outward. They reached a point of perfect, delicate balance. They settled into slow, majestic, looping orbits, wrapping themselves around the young solar system in a colossal, three-dimensional sphere. The violence of their birth was over. The chaos of the spinning nebula was left far behind. Out here in the deep dark, they finally found peace. They became the Oort Cloud. Once they settled into this distant, invisible sphere, a profound silence fell over them. The temperature dropped to the very edges of absolute zero. The intense, deep freeze of interstellar space wrapped around these exiled mountains, locking them in a state of perfect preservation. Think of a leaf trapped in a block of winter ice, completely untouched by the changing seasons. The comets of the Oort Cloud are trapped in a cosmic winter that has lasted for 4.5 billion years. Because they have never returned to the inner solar system, they have never been melted by the sun's heat. They have never been altered by volcanic eruptions or eroded by blowing winds. They are exactly as they were on the very day the solar system was born. They are holding the original, uncorrupted recipe of our home. If you were to touch the dark, dusty surface of one of these sleeping comets, your hand would be brushing against the exact same materials that built the Earth. They carry ancient water ice, frozen solid in the dark. They carry complex carbon-based organic molecules, the very chemical precursors to life itself, sleeping quietly beneath a crust of cosmic dust. There is a beautiful, haunting irony to the Oort Cloud. We look at this dark, invisible sphere as a place of absolute cold and stillness. It is the very edge of the map, a place where life could never survive. Yet, scientists believe that during the chaotic early days of our solar system, long before the Earth's oceans were filled, rogue comets from this outer cloud occasionally fell inward. They crashed into the young, molten Earth, delivering vast amounts of water and organic molecules. The water you drink, the rain that falls outside your window, the very oceans that cradle life on our blue planet. Some of it may have originated right here. It was carried by these silent, exiled wanderers. The Oort Cloud is not a graveyard of dead rocks. It is a storehouse of cosmic seeds. It is a massive, frozen vault holding the ingredients of life, suspended in the dark, wrapped in the comforting quiet of the void. They are sleeping in the snow, waiting for a spring that will never arrive. Let yourself float here for a while, surrounded by the echoes of the beginning. When you feel overwhelmed by the fast-paced, ever-changing demands of the world below, close your eyes and remember this place. The world we live on is loud, frantic, and constantly erasing its own history. But up here, wrapped in the grand, invisible sphere of the Oort Cloud, nothing is ever lost. The ancient past is still here, quietly turning in the dark. Feel the deep, enduring patience of these frozen time capsules. They do not worry about the passing of eons. They do not rush their million-year orbits. They simply exist, holding onto the memories of creation in perfect, undisturbed silence. Let their ancient patience become your patience. Let the deep freeze of the cosmos cool your racing thoughts. Breathe in the stillness of the primordial ice, and exhale the weight of the present moment. The storm of creation is long over. The exile is finished. All that remains is the slow, peaceful turning of the ancestors in the dark. Rest here at the beginning of time. Down on Earth in our everyday lives, we are creatures of containment. We live surrounded by walls that shelter us, floors that anchor us, and horizons that neatly cut the world into manageable pieces. Even when we stand in an open field or gaze out across the vast, rolling expanse of the ocean, our eyes eventually find a stopping point, a distant mountain peak, a tree line, or the curved edge where the blue water meets the sky. Our human minds are naturally built to look for boundaries. We crave them because boundaries give us a sense of safety, structure, and place. They tell us where we are and where we end. But out here, at the ultimate outer reaches of our solar system, boundaries simply cease to exist. We have drifted far beyond the planets, past the frozen rings of the gas giants, past the twilight realm of the Kuiper Belt, and deep into the majestic, invisible architecture of the Oort Cloud. And now, as we hang suspended in the dark, we must confront a reality that the human mind finds almost impossible to comprehend: the sheer, staggering, breathtaking scale of the void. When people hear the word space, they often picture a room painted in black ink, dotted with bright lights like a ceiling sprinkled with glitter. But space is not a room. It is an ocean without a bottom, a sky without a roof, and an expanse without an end. To truly understand where we are resting tonight, we have to let go of our earthly habits of measurement. We have to learn to measure our existence not in miles, kilometers, or hours, but in the profound, beautiful quiet of pure, unbroken distance. Let us pause for a moment, right here in the center of the dark sphere, and look closely at the space between things. If you were to take a single step in our earthly world, you move from one space into another, constantly surrounded by air, by sound, by humidity, and by the invisible presence of life. But here, the medium we are moving through is an absolute vacuum. It is a complete and total absence of matter, stretching out in every conceivable direction across millions upon millions of miles. Earlier in our journey, we spoke of the trillions of icy mountains drifting through this vast sphere. We imagined them as a population of sleeping wanderers, holding onto their silent orbits in the cold. But numbers like a trillion can easily trick the human imagination. They make us picture a crowded swarm, a dense fog, or a busy cluster of tumbling rocks. We must gently correct that picture in our minds. The Oort Cloud is so monumentally, incomprehensibly large that even with a trillion massive objects scattered within it, they are utterly lost in the expanse. If you were to pick any single comet drifting through this dark sphere, and you wanted to visit its nearest neighbor, the closest piece of ice in the entire kingdom, you would have to travel tens of millions of miles through total emptiness. Tens of millions of miles. That is farther than the distance from the Earth to the Sun, repeated over and over again, through unbroken blackness. If you stood on the surface of that comet and looked out into the night, you would see nothing. No neighboring rocks, no shadows, no movement, no lights. You would see only the distant, unblinking pinpricks of stars, separated from you by gulfs of space so wide that light itself takes years, sometimes decades, just to cross them. You are completely, utterly alone, cradled in a silence so pure it has no name. Human history is, at its core, a grand story of exploration and discovery. For thousands of years, brave travelers built boats of wood and steel, pushing out across Earth's wild oceans. They crossed the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the freezing polar seas, driven by the desire to see what lay beyond the horizon. But no matter how far they sailed, no matter how deep the water beneath their vessels grew, there was always a shore waiting on the other side. There was always a beach to step onto, a port to anchor in, and a boundary to find. Out here in the outer reaches of the Oort Cloud, we have sailed entirely off the edge of every known shore. There are no islands in this cosmic ocean. There are no safe harbors, no shallow waters, and no distant coasts to greet a weary traveler. There is only the deep, open, infinite sea of the cosmos. When you look upward, there is an endless abyss of blackness stretching away toward the distant stars of the Milky Way. When you look downward beneath the invisible sphere, there is another endless chasm of quiet night. Look left, look right, look behind, and look ahead. Everywhere you turn, the scale remains identical. A staggering, beautiful, unbroken infinity. It is easy for the human heart to feel a brief, quiet shudder at the thought of such absolute vastness. We are so physically small. Our bodies are so fragile, our heartbeats so brief, compared to the colossal architecture of the cosmos. And hung as you float here, suspended safely in the center of this endless ocean, a remarkable and comforting shift takes place within the mind. The quiet fear of emptiness melts away, replaced by something entirely different, something deeply liberating. It is relief. Think for a moment about the things that weigh heavily upon you when you are down on earth. The hurried mornings, the endless lists of tasks, The small anxieties that whisper in your ear when the lights go out. The heavy feeling that every move you make is watched, judged, or measured. We carry our worries like heavy stones in a backpack, walking through our days with hunched shoulders and racing pulses. Why do we carry them? Because down there, everything feels monumental. Every mistake feels permanent. Every problem feels like the absolute center of the universe. Now, look around you at the scale of the void. You are floating in a sphere that stretches for trillions of miles, surrounded by an ancient, silent ocean of stars that have burned for billions of years. In the grand, breathtaking scale of this cosmic expanse, your earthly worries do not exist. Your rushing deadlines, your daily frustrations, your loud modern noise, they cannot reach you out here. They are swallowed up entirely by the vastness. There is an incredible, profound freedom in realizing just how small you are in the presence of the universe. When nothing is expected of you, when there are no shores to reach, no targets to hit, and no boundaries to defend, you are finally, truly weightless. The scale of the void does not diminish your worth. It liberates you. It takes your heavy burdens, dissolves them in the cool, clean vacuum of space, and leaves you lighter than air. In this vast expanse, even time loses its frantic, exhausting grip. Down on Earth, we are enslaved by the clock. We watch the hands sweep mercilessly around the dial. We count down the hours until our shift ends, until our bills are due, until tomorrow arrives. Time feels like an enemy, running too fast, chasing us relentlessly into old age, demanding our attention every second of the day. But out here, in the outer Oort Cloud, time has forgotten how to hurry. Because the distances between objects are so immense, motion itself becomes invisible. A comet falling along its multi-million-year orbit does not streak across the sky like a frantic shooting star. It drifts with the imperceptible, majestic patience of a glacier moving across a frozen continent. Centuries pass like a single heartbeat. Eons roll by like the turning of a soft page in an ancient book. Nothing is rushed here. The universe does not hurry its creation, and it does not rush its rest. Listen closely to the rhythm of the void. There is no ticking clock. There is no metronome of anxiety. There is only the slow, eternal breath of the cosmos, expanding softly into the dark. Let go completely now. Release every last bit of control. Imagine that your physical form is softly dissolving into the surrounding space. You are no longer bound by skin, by bone, or by the gravity of a troubled world. You are expanding, stretching out to gently fill the quiet, dark rooms of the Oort Cloud. Your thoughts become as wide as the distance between the stars. Your breathing becomes as slow and steady as the orbit of a sleeping comet. Feel the soothing coolness of the vacuum washing over your mind, washing away the dust of the day, cooling the heat of your racing thoughts. Let the vastness of the void hold you securely in its arms. There is no up. There is no down. There is only peace, stretching out infinitely in every direction. You are safe in the deep. You are cradled by the largest, most peaceful sanctuary in existence. Rest here in the quiet scale of the infinite, and let the silence heal every tired part of your mind. We have traveled an incomprehensible distance from the warm, noisy shores of Earth. We have sailed past the rocky cradle of the inner planets, crossed the quiet expanse of the asteroid belt, drifted under the magnificent icy rings of the gas giants, and traversed the deep twilight realms of Uranus and Neptune. We have stepped off the flat plane of the solar system, floating deep within the monumental, three-dimensional sphere of the Oort Cloud, surrounded by trillions of sleeping, ancient comets. For eons, this grand, invisible sphere has held us. It has acted as a shield, a sanctuary, and a cradle at the edge of the dark. But now, as we drift higher and further outward, moving toward the very outer skin of this sphere, something subtle begins to change. The invisible thread that has tethered us to home for 4 and 1 billion years, the fragile, gentle pull of our sun's gravity, is growing impossibly thin. Out here, at the absolute perimeter of the Oort Cloud, A single mile can mean the difference between belonging and letting go. Look back toward the center one last time. The sun is no longer a bright, commanding diamond. It is merely a solitary star among trillions, indistinguishable from the rest of the galaxy. Its gravity is no longer a leash. It is a whispered memory. We have reached the silent threshold. We are standing at the edge of home. Down on Earth, we think of our world as a closed room. We look up at the night sky and see a ceiling of distant lights, believing that the space between us and them is an impassable barrier. But out here at the outer boundary of the Oort Cloud, we discover the true nature of the cosmos. Space is not a barrier, it is a bridge. Look outward into the absolute blackness ahead of you. For trillions of miles there is nothing. No planets, no comets, no dust, no light. Just pure, pristine emptiness. This is the interstellar void, the great ocean that separates star from star, system from system. And yet, across this unimaginable chasm, other campfires are burning. Millions of miles away in the dark, neighboring stars, alien suns with their own worlds, their own comets, and their own quiet histories, are shining silently in the night. Alpha Centauri, Barnard's star, and countless others rest out there in the deep, casting their own pale lights across the dark. We are floating right now on the frontier where our sun's domain ends, and the domain of the next star begins. We are standing on the threshold of the galaxy itself. Is this boundary empty? Is there nothing moving in the space between the stars? To the human eye, it looks like absolute nothingness. But if you could quiet your mind enough to listen with the universe's senses, you would feel it, the interstellar whisper. Drifting through this vast chasm are high-energy particles, cosmic rays born from exploding stars light years away, and the faint, invisible wind of the galaxy. They wash over us like an ocean current moving through a deep trench. They carry information from ancient supernovae, reminders of distant stellar births and deaths, whispering across the void that we are never truly isolated. Every atom in your body, every drop of water in your oceans, and every breath you have ever taken was forged inside the heart of an ancient star that died long before our sun was born. And now, floating here at the edge of the Oort Cloud, you have returned to the medium of your birth. You are surrounded by the very material that built the galaxy. You are not a visitor in the dark. You are a part of it. Think about the long journey we have taken together tonight. We left behind the noise of the cities, the heavy pull of gravity, the rushing current of time, and the endless list of earthly worries. We walked through the silent museums of the planets, drifted past the sleeping mountain ranges of ice, and scaled the grand geometry of the invisible sphere. And now, here at the ultimate threshold, there is nothing left to carry. The last remnants of earthly tension dissolve into the starlight. The concept of distance loses its meaning. The ticking clock of your daily life has stopped completely. You are suspended in a state of absolute, weightless grace. You are resting on the bridge between our home and the infinite universe. There is no place you need to rush to. There is no destination waiting for your arrival. There is only the quiet present moment stretching out across the stars. Breathe in the pristine, timeless cold of the interstellar threshold. Exhale the last echo of earthly noise. Let the silence hold you. Let the dark protect you. Let the universe sing you to sleep. We have crossed every boundary we ever knew. We left behind the warm blue cradle of Earth, climbed through the silent silver sentinel of the Moon, and drifted past the rusted deserts of Mars. We glided through the lonely stone gardens of the asteroid belt, sailed beneath the grand, shimmering ice rings of Saturn, and looked back at the tiny, piercing diamond of our sun from the monumental, three-dimensional sphere of the Oort Cloud. We stood on the silent threshold of interstellar space, feeling the breath of the galaxy brush against our skin. And now there are no more maps, there are no more names. We have stepped past the very edge of the solar system. Ahead of us lies the open, limitless ocean of the Milky Way. millions of cubic light-years of pure, velvet darkness, studded with the distant campfires of 100 billion other suns. If you look ahead into that vast chasm, you might expect to feel fear or vertigo or a sharp pang of loneliness. But out here, wrapped in the ultimate quiet of the cosmos, those feelings have completely vanished. There is only an overwhelming, beautiful sense of completion. Turn around slowly, letting your gaze sweep across the magnificent panorama of the night. The Milky Way stretches across the dark like a spilled river of powdered diamonds and glowing pearl mist. It is our galactic home, a massive, spinning spiral of 200 billion stars, gas clouds, and ancient dust nurseries, all dancing together in a slow, eternal waltz. Look at how gently they move. No star rushes past another. No system fights for space. They drift through the gravitational currents of the galaxy with an effortless, breathtaking grace, suspended in an ocean of time that has no beginning and no end. And somewhere, deep within that magnificent tapestry, tucked away in a quiet corner of a minor spiral arm, is a tiny, fragile speck of blue. Your home. From this impossible distance, the Earth cannot be seen. It is completely invisible, lost in the brilliant glare of a million greater stars. Yet you know it is there. You carry its warmth in your memory, its rhythm in your breath, and its history in your bones. You do not need to see it to know it exists. You can feel its quiet heartbeat echoing softly across the light years. Bring your awareness inward now. Leave the vast expanse of the stars for a moment and feel the space you occupy. What are you made of? Down on Earth, we spend our days worrying about the surface of things, our schedules, our tasks, our fleeting worries, and the heavy armor we wear to face the world. But beneath all of that, what is your true substance? Every atom of iron in your blood, every calcium molecule in your bones, every spark of carbon that powers your thoughts. It was all forged inside the fiery heart of an ancient star that lived, exploded, and died billions of years ago. You are not separate from the cosmos looking out at it. You are the cosmos looking back at itself. The silence that surrounds you right now is the same silence that fills the space between the stars. The chill of the void is the cool breath of creation. You are made of the exact same stardust that drifts through the Oort Cloud, the exact same elements that paint the nebulae across the Milky Way. You have not traveled away from home tonight. You have simply returned to where you truly belong. The journey is complete. We have walked the length of the solar system, climbed to the roof of the Oort Cloud, and looked out across the infinite bridge of the stars. There is nothing left to explore tonight. There are no more questions to ask, no more distances to cross. Allow your physical form to soften completely. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let the tension in your hands and face melt into the dark. Imagine yourself drifting like a single, weightless leaf on a calm, midnight river. The current of space is gentle, slow, and entirely safe. It is carrying you deeper into peace, further into rest, away from all noise and all motion. The stars above you are watching over your sleep, burning with a quiet, steady light that has guided travelers through the dark for eternity. Breathe in the deep, clean quiet of the infinite. Exhale every remaining thought, every lingering worry, every trace of the waking world. You are safe in the deep. You are cradled by the universe. We have journeyed together across oceans of space and rivers of time. We have left behind the heavy pull of the earth, sailed past the silent silver sentinel of the moon, and drifted through the rusted, quiet deserts of Mars. We have wandered among the lonely stone gardens of the asteroid belt, looked up at the golden, shimmering rings of Saturn, and crossed the freezing twilight frontiers of Uranus and Neptune. We have scaled the monumental, three-dimensional geometry of the Oort Cloud, stood upon the silent threshold of the interstellar bridge, and gazed out across the infinite tapestry of the Milky Way. And now, the journey of movement has come to an end. There are no more distances to cross. There are no more boundaries to discover. We have reached the final, quiet destination, the inner sanctuary of the mind. When the body lets go of its earthly weight and the soul expands to touch the scale of the stars, something extraordinary happens. The waking world, with all its frantic noise, its hurried footsteps and its heavy expectations, fades away like morning mist under the rising sun. You are no longer looking at the universe from the outside. You have become the universe itself. Listen closely to the dark. Down on Earth, we spend our lives running from quietness. We fill our homes with the hum of electronics, the rush of traffic, the ticking of clocks, and the endless chatter of our own thoughts. We treat silence like an empty space that needs to be filled, a void that needs to be cured. But out here, wrapped in the eternal night of the cosmos, we discover the true nature of silence. Silence is not empty, silence is full. It is full of history, full of peace, and full of the gentle breathing of sleeping worlds. It is the original music of creation, playing softly in the background of all things. When you quiet your mind and surrender to the dark, you realize that silence is a warm embrace. It wraps around your tired spirit like a soft blanket on a freezing night. In this grand, infinite quiet, your heart rate slows to match the rhythm of the stars. Your breathing deepens, syncing with the slow, majestic turn of the galaxy. There is nothing you need to fix. There is nothing you need to prove. There is only the quiet, beautiful hum of existence, holding you securely in its arms. Feel the physical form you left behind begin to soften and dissolve. Your hands are weightless. Your shoulders are completely free of tension. The muscles in your face, which have held onto the stress of the day for so long, are relaxing into a deep, peaceful release. Imagine that your mind is like a clear, unrippled alpine lake at midnight. A single thought might drift across the surface. A memory, a shadow, a fleeting worry, like a gentle leaf falling onto the water. But instead of sinking, instead of stirring up mud from the bottom, the leaf simply floats for a moment, and then gently drifts away. Your mind does not need to hold on to anything tonight. Let every worry, every task, and every unresolved question slip from your fingers. Let them drift out into the dark, where the vastness of space can swallow them up and turn them into stardust. You are entirely light. You are entirely free. Picture yourself floating down a silent, midnight river made not of water, but of soft, glowing stardust. The current is gentle, unhurried, and perfectly safe. It carries you effortlessly through the quiet corridors of the cosmos. On either side of you, ancient nebulae glow with hues of deep violet, soft amber, and tranquil sapphire, cosmic clouds of creation, breathing slowly in the dark. You pass by distant suns that twinkle like sleepy campfires across the hills of eternity. They are not burning with fierce heat. They are glowing with a warm, steady, comforting light, watching over your passage through the night. There is no destination on this river. The journey is the rest. Every turn of the current takes you deeper into peace, further away from the noise, and closer to the profound, restorative core of your own inner quiet. Let the stardust wash over you. Let its ancient, cooling light soothe every tired thought, every weary nerve, and every hidden corner of your mind. You are being renewed by the very elements that built the stars. Out here in the deep embrace of the cosmos, time ceases to be a tyrant. There is no yesterday to regret and no tomorrow to fear. There is only this single, perfect, eternal moment. The clock on your wall has stopped ticking. The calendar has faded away. There is only the quiet dark, the steady rhythm of your breath, and the endless, beautiful peace of the universe holding you in the dark. Rest in this timeless now. Let the seconds stretch into eons of pure, unbothered rest. You have earned this silence. You have earned this sanctuary. Allow yourself to sink deeper into the quiet, deeper into the dark, deeper into the dream. The stars are burning bright above your resting place. The sleeping comets of the Oort Cloud continue their silent, million-year waltz through the dark. The grand, invisible sphere of home holds you safe within its arms. You are a child of the cosmos, returning at last to the place where you belong. Take one final, slow, deep breath of the pristine, quiet night, and as you exhale, let go of the very last anchor tying you to the waking world. Let your eyes close. Let your thoughts fade into the velvet black. The universe is watching over you. The stars are singing their quiet lullaby across the light years. In our long and wandering journey together, we have looked across impossible gulfs of space and time. We have stood at the bottom of the deep blue cradle of Earth, listening to the rushing noise of a world in motion. We have climbed through the quiet stratosphere, glided past the silver sentinel of the moon, and wandered through the rusted, red deserts of Mars. We have sailed among the lonely stone gardens of the asteroid belt, looked up at the golden, shimmering rings of Saturn, and crossed the freezing twilight frontiers of Uranus and Neptune. We ventured out into the monumental, three-dimensional sphere of the Oort Cloud, floating among trillions of sleeping, ancient comets that hold the pristine memories of creation. We stood on the silent threshold of the interstellar bridge and gazed out across the grand, swirling tapestry of the Milky Way. And turning our eyes backward, we descended through the ancient stone strata of our own home world, touching the quiet, fossilized memories locked deep within the Earth's crust. We have traveled from the farthest edges of the cosmos to the deepest roots of the ground beneath our feet. And now, standing here at the quiet intersection of sky and stone, we realize something extraordinary. There is no separation between the vastness of the stars above and the silent strength of the earth below. They are two halves of the exact same grand design. The universe is not out there, distant and detached from who we are. It is flowing through us, breathing with us, and resting quietly within us tonight. Take a moment to feel the rotation of the world beneath you. Down on Earth, we spend our days rushing against the clock, fighting the invisible boundaries of hours and minutes, believing that time is a scarce and precious resource that slips through our fingers like dry sand. We hurry from task to task, carrying our schedules like heavy chains. But out here in the grand perspective of the cosmos, time is not a tyrant. It is a slow, majestic river. Feel the earth turning. It does not spin in panic. It rotates with an effortless, unhurried grace. 1,000 miles an hour, carrying forests, oceans, cities, and mountains through the velvet dark, turning us slowly toward the gentle promise of a new dawn. As the earth turns, the stars above wheel across the night sky in a slow, silent arc. They have been turning for billions of years. They watched over the primeval oceans before a single foot walked upon the land. They watched over the ancient giants that roamed the damp prehistoric valleys. They watched over the first human fires lit in the cold protection of caves. And tonight they are watching over you. If you listen closely to the quiet of the night, past the rustle of the wind and the steady rhythm of your own breath, you can hear it. The eternal symphony of the universe. It is not a loud music. It is a music composed of silence, distance, and light. It is the low, resonant drone of a billion suns burning in the dark. It is the soft whisper of cosmic dust drifting through the Oort cloud. It is the deep, patient hum of the Earth's molten core, keeping our world warm and protected against the freezing void. Every element of this symphony plays its part without effort. The stars do not strain to shine. The planets do not struggle to hold their orbits. The rivers do not force themselves to reach the sea. Everything in nature rests in a state of effortless being. And you are a part of that symphony. Your heartbeat is a drum beat in the rhythm of the cosmos. Your breathing is the expansion and contraction of the universe, mirrored in miniature within your chest. When you realize that you belong to this grand, unhurried music, the need to struggle falls away. You do not have to force your life to happen. You only need to allow yourself to flow with the current of existence. Let us step inside the quietest room of all, the inner sanctuary of your own mind. For too long, your mind has been a crowded marketplace, filled with the noise of demands, expectations, worries, and endless thoughts running in 1,000 different directions at once. We invite so much noise into our lives, letting the chatter of the world build walls of tension around our spirit. Right now, in this sacred space of rest, we are opening the doors and windows of that crowded room. Imagine a cool, refreshing breeze blowing in from the infinite expanse of the stars, sweeping through your mind, carrying away the dust, the clutter, and the heavy burdens of the day. Let the thoughts scatter like autumn leaves in the wind. You do not need to chase them. You do not need to solve them tonight. Let them drift out into the dark, where the vastness of the universe can dissolve them into quiet stardust. Your mind is clearing. Your thoughts are settling like calm water in a forest pool. There is nothing left inside except clarity, stillness, and peace. As the night deepens, and the world rests in its deep, restorative slumber, the horizon begins to hint at the quiet promise of what is to come. We do not need to fear tomorrow. Tomorrow is not a list of tasks waiting to overwhelm us. It is a blank canvas, a fresh page in an unwritten book, waiting to be filled with quiet moments, gentle sunlight, and peaceful breaths. Whatever tomorrow brings, you will meet it from a place of deep, unshakable calm. You have walked the length of the solar system. You have rested in the silent architecture of the Oort Cloud. You have felt the ancient patience of the earth supporting your steps. You carry the strength of the stars and the resilience of stone within you. You are anchored, balanced, and completely whole. The journey is complete. Every chapter has been written, every distance has been crossed, and every star has sung its lullaby. There is nothing left to do now, but to let go completely. Allow your body to feel heavy, warm, and deeply relaxed. Let your eyelids grow wonderfully sleepy and soft. Feel the mattress beneath you holding you securely, mirroring the comforting embrace of the earth and the cosmos. Take one final, slow, beautiful breath of the midnight air. And as you exhale, release the very last thread of wakefulness. Let the silence take you. Let the dark protect you. Let the universe cradle you in its infinite arms. Sleep deeply, traveler. Your journey through the night has brought you home. Good night.